Well, just over half of inmates across Canada say they've used illicit drugs during the 6 months prior to their last arrest. This according to research from the Canadian Centre for Substance Abuse. But how does someone who is unemployed get the money to pay for drugs at upwards of $40 and $80 a pill? Gerard Lamphouse sits down with Alberta's Justice Minister to discuss the drug economy.
Madam Minister, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We want to talk about the drug economy and add to that as well. Red Deer is looking at themselves on the crime severity index as outpacing bigger cities. They find themselves caught between the outflow from Edmonton and Calgary. Lloydminster is also in that situation between Edmonton and Saskatchewan. Now, persons before the courts who are dealing with drugs and such, whether or not warrants have been issued for them, in the interim while the RCMP are looking for them, they continue to commit crimes. So let's talk first about persons who are either before the courts or on warrants and should be in court to face charges.
With respect to warrants, it's certainly the case that we have taken some steps to reduce the number of unnecessary warrants that are on police files. So we recently moved to ensure that warrants weren't issuing for minor infractions like transit violation tickets or spitting or those sorts of municipal bylaws. So we think that that has probably had a fairly significant impact on the number of warrants that police need to execute. So while we obviously can't have a direct impact on who is committing crimes, we can certainly have an impact, I think, on how many warrants and ensuring that those police resources are focused on the important warrants.
Madam Minister, justice delayed is justice denied. The Supreme Court of Canada issued the Jordan ruling in July, looking at matters now, speeding them up, that matters need to be through the court system anywhere from 18 to 30 months. So are we at risk then of some matters being thrown out because they're not being concluded in that time frame?
Yes, that's true. The Jordan decision could potentially affect a number of cases. The number is difficult to determine because, of course, there will be a number of factors in each one of those cases. The decision came down from the Supreme Court, so basically we're in a position to be reactive to it, and we've taken a number of steps to ensure that, again, we're doing that same thing where we're focusing the criminal justice system resources on the most important cases. So we're looking to increase diversion, to put higher level prosecutors up front to ensure that they're making the best offer first so that things can move through in a more timely manner so that the incentives are in the right place in that way. We'll also be prioritizing serious and violent matters to ensure that they're coming forward sooner, and so far those steps are having an impact. Obviously, one of the things that we continue to suffer from is a shortage of Queen's Bench justices to hear those more serious matters. The current federal government has taken some steps in that direction. We've also increased the number of positions from Alberta's perspective that we think they ought to have, and we're hopeful that more appointments will be forthcoming.
Madam Minister, when it comes to victims of crime, they can make the victim impact statement as well, make claims for restitution before the courts. But it's difficult at times to honor those claims. How can we look at ameliorating that situation?
So if the appropriate evidence is placed before the court can make a restitution order that the person pay the money back. Now, obviously, much like a civil suit, you can't get money from a place where no money exists, but those orders stay on, they continue to exist, right? It's not just a matter of if you don't have it at that moment, that will continue to follow the individual. In a lot of cases, if you're talking about property crime, as you've indicated, there will be insurance involved, but potentially the insurance will be seeking compensation. So there's a number of factors at play there.
Now, Newcap News will have part 2 of that interview with Alberta's Justice Minister tomorrow. Well, ambulance service was heavily discussed at the Lloydminster Concerned Citizens for Seniors Care Society meeting today. Gina Martin has more from the Legacy Centre.
Well, ambulance service issues in Lloydminster is no new story to us, but with the new year comes a stronger approach from the Lloydminster Concerned Citizens about dealing with it. We spoke to the president about the issue, and he believes that with Saskatchewan amalgamating all of its health regions, it could actually be a benefit to us in the border city.
We think that this is a real opportunity to be able to look at some of the things that aren't working that well and be able to talk to them about some possible solutions. And hopefully they'll agree with us and take this opportunity to improve some of the services.
And with Saskatchewan amalgamating all of its health regions, it could benefit Lloydminster in some other ways, including the Dr. Cook Extended Care Centre.
Hopefully with this structure again, there's some opportunity to revisit some of these decisions and take a look at some possible solutions that make sense.
And probably the biggest item on the agenda today was a press release they have sent out asking citizens of Lloydminster to give their input on how they feel about the current ambulance system. You can find that press release on their Facebook page. Reporting from the Legacy Centre in Lloydminster, Gina Martin, Newcap News.
Well, many rural families face the struggle of sending their children on long bus rides to get to school. One family is asking Alberta Education to reevaluate the funding model for transportation in rural communities. Angie Mellon reports.
The Park family lives on a farm near Tulliby Lake. Their children are the 6th generation to grow up there, but now the family is facing a challenge when it comes to their daughter Susan, who should be attending school in the fall. Their daughter would have a daily 3-hour and 20-minute commute, which they say is too long for a child.
It's an hour and 40 minutes each way, so I think it's just too long for our kids to be sitting still, along with all the time they have to be sitting still in school.
The reason the commute is this long is because the Tulliby Lake School closed in 2011, and children in that area now attend school in Marwayne. However, with the long bus route, the parents feel they do not have many options and feel they are being forced into homeschooling.
I don't mind the idea of homeschooling, I just don't want to be pushed into the corner. Like, a lot of people choose to homeschool, and it's very nice that they have that choice, but to have the other choices taken away, I don't think that's right.
The Park family are not the only ones facing this problem. Lauren Larson is a grandfather whose grandson will be attending school in the fall and faces an hour and 50-minute commute each way, which he is trying to avoid.
I will be doing anything I have to avoid having to put him through that for basically 3 hours and 45 minutes a day on a bus is unacceptable.
The Park family has tried many times to reduce how long the bus commute will be, including voicing their concerns to Buffalo Trail Public Schools and to Alberta Education.
Currently, under the funding structure that we face right now, putting another route isn't an option. This transportation in rural Alberta has been a real concern for a lot of boards in the province.
The Education Minister was not available to comment. However, Lindsay Harvey, the press secretary for the minister, provided this statement. The statement also says the minister is in meetings across the province to discuss priorities and challenges. As well, Buffalo Trail did specifically raise concerns about transportation, which would be taken into consideration for the 2017-2018 school year. As for the Park family, they don't believe there's another option other than homeschooling, which they feel will impact their children's social needs unless funding is provided. Angie Mellon, Newcap News.
Well, 2 cats are up for adoption in this week's pet project. Francis is a 6-month-old domestic short-haired cat, and Mocha is a 4-year-old domestic short-haired cat. Here's John from the SPCA.
This handsome fellow is Francis, a 6-month-old domestic short-haired cat. Francis initially was brought to the shelter as a stray in October. Shortly after he arrived, we noticed that he had some hair loss around his ears. A test was sent away and it was determined that he had ringworm. Fortunately, the people who found Francis were able to take him into foster care while we treated this mild case. It took over 2 months, but in early January, Francis was finally cleared. Francis is now ready for adoption and simply can't wait to share his love with that special family. This energetic guy just adores running and playing, and when he's tuckered out, he enjoys nothing more than cuddling up next to you and purring his little heart out. Francis is a very special cat that will fill your life with endless joy. So come on down to the SPCA and meet Francis today. Like her namesake, Mocha, a 4-year-old domestic short-haired cat, is a very special blend of sweet with a little bit of kick. Her big heart will warm you to the core even on the coldest of days. She also has lots of energy and enjoys nothing more than exploring her surroundings. Mocha can be a little nervous at first, but once she's settled in, you start to see her true colors. It doesn't take long for her inquisitive personality to show. Mocha loves nothing more than to run and play and is particularly fond of toy mice. After a day of playing and exploring, Mocha loves nothing more than to settle down for a long winter's nap. If you're looking for that special cat to help beat the winter blues, then look no further than Mocha. Don't delay, come down to the SPCA and meet this wonderful cat today. You'll be glad you did.
This is Newcap Sports.
Well,
Naturally, hockey players have a competitive spirit. In this week's Beyond the Boards, 2 forwards and 2 defensemen of your Lloydminster Bobcats decided to hit the bowling alley to have a friendly competition.
We're here at Lashburn Bowling Alley, and I'm with Zach Webb and Scott Ivey of your Lloydminster Bobcats. On my other side, I got Zach Sherburn and Daniel Hilsendegger. It's a battle of the defensemen versus the forwards. Zach, how do you think you guys are going to do today?
I think we're going to take this one today.
And the other Zach on my other side here, how do you think you're going to do today?
I can't say I'm that good of a bowler, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay, well, we're just going to have to see how they do, so we'll get the match going now.
Let's go.
Come on, let's go, Serge. Right.
On the shoes.
No.
Do it. Two. Do it.
Well, it was an excellent battle between the forwards over here and the defensemen, but in the end, the forwards took the match. Probably no surprise, they're a little better with offense. So, Zach, how are you feeling about after that match?
I'm feeling pretty good. We won that one by a landslide, so I thought that's what was going to happen.
And Danny, are you guys thinking you're going to have to stick to hockey after this?
Yeah, well, we had fun, so that's all that matters. I mean, if you had fun, you won, so whatever.